She looked weak until the whole room found out who she really was. She was dining alone, eyes focused on her meal, when the sneer came. "Eating solo, sweetheart. Want some company?" The whistle that followed sliced through the restaurant like a blade. 3 men swaggered over, loud with laughter, surrounding her table like they owned it. Most people thought she'd get up and leave. Maybe cry. But before a second could pass, all 3 were on the ground. Groaning, stunned, limbs twisted in ways they weren't meant to be. The entire restaurant froze. It wasn't fear she wore, or panic, just stillness. Fork still in hand, face composed, eyes sharp like she'd stared down worse storms than this. Her name was Olivia, and the hush that fell over the white linen tables and golden chandeliers wasn't just shock. It was realization. She didn't look the part. Faded jeans, plain gray sweater, no rings, no perfume, no performance. But now she was the center of it all. A quiet force who'd just dismantled 3 men in under 15 seconds. Her pasta sat untouched, steam rising, almost mocking the chaos. She hadn't spoken, but her silence screamed louder than their arrogance. This wasn't the reaction they expected. Because Olivia didn't fight back to defend herself. She ended it. The 3 men never saw it coming. They were the loud kind, slick suits, louder voices, the kind who thought they owned every room they walked into. The first one, heavyset with a gold chain flashing from under his collar, had started it all. His 2 friends joined in fast, one with a military-style buzz cut and a frat boy smirk, the other sporting a designer watch and a laugh that grated like a fork on glass. Their table was a battlefield of empty pint glasses and crumpled napkins. They'd been drinking for a while when they noticed Olivia, quiet, calm, alone, book resting beside her untouched plate. She looked like an easy target, someone bored, vulnerable, maybe even desperate. "Hey there, princess," Buzzcut called out, slouching in his chair. "Looking lonely over there. Come sit with us. We don't bite." The comment dripped with mockery. A few diners nearby chuckled, turning Olivia into part of the evening's entertainment. A woman in a navy blazer leaned toward her table-mate, lips curled in judgment. "She thinks she's too good to even answer," she whispered loud enough for Olivia to hear. Adjusting her expensive glasses, she added, "She probably can't even afford this place." Her friend, spray-tanned, bracelets jingling, giggled behind a manicured hand. Olivia's fingers tensed around her water glass, just for a second. Then she took a slow sip, like she hadn't heard a thing. But in the far corner, an older man in a rumpled suit caught the subtle shift in her posture. His eyes narrowed. He saw it, the restraint, the patience. She didn't glance up. She just twirled her fork in her spaghetti, methodical, measured. Then the gold chain guy slammed his drink down on her table, the thud like a slap in the face. "Come on now, sweetheart, drink with us, or you too good for regular folks?" The whole room seemed to lean in, waiting for her to flee, waiting for the show. But she just set her fork down and looked up. Her eyes met his, calm, cold, unblinking. There was nothing scared in them, only stillness. "I'll say this once," she said, her voice low, cutting clean through the noise. "Leave me alone." It wasn't loud, but it sliced sharper than a shout. Buzzcut barked out a laugh, smacking his leg. "She sounds like one of those drill sergeants in a boot camp flick," he snorted. His friends howled with laughter, riding the wave of mockery. A waiter passed by, young, maybe 20, tray full of wine glasses trembling slightly in his hands. He stopped near Olivia's table, his voice barely above a whisper. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" Before she could answer, Gold Chain waved him off. "Mind your business, kid." He shooed him like a mosquito. The tray wobbled, one glass tipped, crashing to the ground, wine pooling red across the tiles. Laughter rippled through the room, this time more cruel. The waiter flushed crimson, scrambling to clean up the mess. Olivia's eyes flicked to him briefly. Then, without a word, she slid her napkin across the table. "You're good," she murmured, quiet, calm, reassuring. The young man hesitated, then nodded, hands steadier now as he picked up the napkin. The laughter behind her swelled, but the older man in the corner kept watching. He heard something in her voice, a clipped command, sharp and sure, like someone who wasn't used to being ignored. But the trio didn't notice. They were too busy performing, too drunk on their own spotlight. Gold Chain leaned in again, breath soaked in hops. "Oh, don't be like that," he said, his tone faux sweet. "We're just trying to be nice." Her jaw tensed. She folded her napkin. Once, then again. Still not answering. Still composed. Across the room, a teenage girl hidden behind her family's tablecloth was streaming the whole thing. "She's about to cry," she whispered to her brother. "Bet she runs out any second." But Olivia didn't flinch. She just made space. The biggest of the three, the one with the flashy watch, rose from his seat. Tall, built like a wall. Every step he took across the polished floor thundered like a warning. He circled behind Olivia's chair, slow and deliberate. Then, with zero warning, slapped her shoulder. Hard. The sharp crack echoed. A woman nearby gasped, hand clutching her wineglass. Olivia shifted just enough. His grip missed. He leaned in close, voice dipped in menace. "No use trying to run, babe. We like you." It wasn't a flirt. It was a threat dressed as charm. Two waiters, stiff in pressed vests, exchanged nervous glances but stayed put. Near the bar, the restaurant manager, thin, pale, fake smile frozen, hovered, watching, doing nothing. Tension thickened like the room was holding its breath. An older couple seated by the window traded uneasy looks. The woman whispered behind her pearls, "Why won't she just leave?" Her husband sighed, tie knotted to perfection. "She's asking for it, dressed like that." Olivia heard every word, didn't flinch, didn't even look, but her shoulders straightened, posture locked tight. Then it happened. Fast. She caught the tall guy's wrist midair, twisted, dropped him to the floor in a single movement. He hit the ground hard, yelping like a kicked dog. The restaurant exploded into chaos. Forks clanged, glasses trembled. Olivia didn't hesitate. She spun, kicked a chair aside. 2 punches, one to Gold Chain's jaw, one to Buzzcut's gut. Both men folded like paper, one groaning, the other gasping for air. "What just happened?" someone whispered near the window. But Olivia, she stood still, breathing even, sweater slightly off center, no rage, no panic, like she'd just swatted a fly. A man in a pinstripe suit shot up from his table, waving an arm like he was flagging down a taxi. "This is outrageous," he shouted, his voice puffed with authority. "You can't just attack people in a place like this." His wife, draped in gold jewelry, nodded so hard her earrings jingled. She clutched her purse like it was a shield. Around them the restaurant buzzed, confused, murmuring, judging. Some diners frowned. Others stared like they were witnessing a scandal unfold. But Olivia didn't react. She calmly adjusted her sweater, then sat back down, slow and silent, as if nothing had happened. The suited man wasn't done. "She's a danger!" he barked. "Someone call the police!" But when Olivia turned her gaze toward him, just a glance, he stumbled over his next word, then fell quiet. People didn't know what to make of her. Conflicted looks danced across every face. From a corner booth, a man with slicked back hair and a voice that dripped money scoffed. "Just lucky punches," he muttered. "Once those guys get up, she's toast." The tall one did get up, sort of. Wobbling, red-faced, trembling with fury. He growled, voice cracking as he doubled over, still feeling the pain. His buddies struggled to rise. Gold Chain holding his jaw, Buzzcut clutching his stomach. Tension in the room was electric now. Staff finally started moving. The manager, sweating through his vest, barked into a phone for security. Everyone expected Olivia to retreat, to grab her bag and slip out quietly, but she didn't. Instead, she rolled up her sleeve, and that's when the room collectively gasped. A black tattoo on her forearm, bat-like wings, sharp and unmistakable. A symbol. One not everyone recognized, but those who did froze. A man in a coffee-stained booth leaned forward. "That's a SEAL emblem," he whispered. Another nodded slowly. "Special Forces." Everything changed. The whispers spread like fire in dry brush. "Special Ops? No way. She's bluffing." But the three men didn't move. Their arrogance drained, their faces pale, trembling like schoolboys caught stealing. Olivia didn't speak. She didn't need to. She moved, faster than anyone could process. Tall guy tried to lunge, but she dropped him again, arm locked behind his back. Gold chain swung, missed, took a jab to the ribs, and collapsed. Buzzcut barely raised a fist before he was knocked flat, staring at the ceiling, eyes dazed. 15 seconds, 3 men down, again. The restaurant fell silent, dead silent. A busboy near the kitchen stood frozen, tray of dirty plates in his hands. Sauce dripped down his apron. He'd watched the entire thing, eyes wide, unblinking. Olivia met his gaze. The boy flinched, expecting a glare, but instead she nodded, a small gesture, like she saw him. He blinked, shoulders lowering, and hurried back to the kitchen, tray rattling in his grip. No one else noticed. But it mattered. To them both. "Probably a stunt woman," someone scoffed. The woman in the red dress sneered, her earrings swaying. "What is this? A movie shoot?" The man with the slicked hair leaned forward. "If you're really a SEAL, why are you eating pasta alone in a mid-tier restaurant?" His tone full of smug disbelief. On the ground, the 3 men moaned, gold chains sobbing into the floor. "We didn't know," he choked. "Please." Buzzcut was crying now. The tough guy act completely gone. The room was still buzzing, with doubt, with awe, with disbelief. But Olivia, she stood still, like none of it mattered. Years ago, she stood barefoot on the cracked floor of a dusty gym, hands wrapped in tape, sweat dripping from her brow. Across from her, a sparring partner twice her size, cocky, confident, smirking like she was already beaten. He threw the first punch, missed, then another, but she was already moving, fluid, precise. By the time he dropped to his knees, panting and dazed, he wasn't laughing anymore. In the corner, her coach watched, arms crossed, legs stiff from old injuries. "You don't fight to prove a point," he told her, handing over a towel. "You fight to end it." She didn't nod. She didn't need to. The lesson was already there, in every breath. Back in the restaurant, that same fire burned in her eyes. No panic, no apology. Then, security burst through the entrance. 2 thick-set guards in black polos, earpieces crackling. They started toward her, eyes locked, shoulders squared. But someone stepped in first. A man in a black suit, older with a chiseled jaw and sharp, unreadable eyes. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "Stand down," he ordered, flashing an ID. The emblem caught the light. Naval Special Warfare Command. The guard stopped cold. He turned to Olivia, bowing slightly. "Apologies, Commander. I didn't expect to find you here." A ripple passed through the restaurant. "Commander." The word hit like a hammer dropped on fine china. At the bar, a young woman with blue hair whispered to her date, "Did he just say, Commander?" Her fingers hovered over her phone, Googling frantically beneath the table. Olivia saw her, watched her fumble to understand, then turned back to her meal, calmly flipping a page in her book. Not a word, not a flinch, just silence that demanded respect. The girl with blue hair stopped typing, her hands frozen, eyes locked on Olivia, like she'd just seen a myth step out of fiction. On the ground, the trio of aggressors stirred. Gold chain sobbed into the floor. "We didn't know. Please." Buzzcut hiccuped mid-sob. The tall one lay motionless, eyes staring up at the ceiling like he was waiting to wake from a nightmare. But the crowd still wasn't sure. A man in a golf polo scrolled through his phone, muttering, "Probably fake. Some actress." The woman in the red dress scoffed again. "A female SEAL commander. Don't be ridiculous." But Olivia stood steady, not reacting, not blinking. She scanned the room like she was logging every single word. An older waitress approached quietly, hair streaked with gray, apron fraying at the seams. She moved like someone who'd seen her share of storms. "Need a refill, hun?" she asked, warm but cautious. Olivia's eyes softened just slightly. She nodded once. The coffee poured steady. "Don't let them rattle you," the woman said, voice low, meant only for Olivia. "They're loud 'cause they're scared." A twitch at the corner of Olivia's lips. Not quite a smile, but close. The waitress walked away taller somehow. Then the man in black raised his hand, and something shifted. 5 men stood up from different tables. All shapes, all ages. But each of them held a look in their eyes. That quiet intensity only found in people who've seen the edge and stepped back from it. They saluted Olivia in perfect unison. One of them, cheek scarred and voice like gravel, spoke up. "Commander, your orders." The restaurant stopped breathing. Olivia looked across the room, then spoke, calm and clean. "Continue your meal. I'm done here." And with that, she sat down again, picked up her fork, like nothing had happened. At a table near the exit, a young boy sat with his parents. Crayons scattered, coloring book forgotten. His wide eyes stayed fixed on Olivia, mouth slightly open in awe. He tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Is she a superhero?" he whispered. The mom, flustered, tried to hush him, but the boy couldn't look away. And though Olivia didn't turn toward him, her hand paused on her book, fingers brushing the spine. She'd heard him. The moment hung there, suspended. An unspoken thread between them. At another table, the businessman in the blazer stared down at his plate, his appetite gone. The woman in the red dress twisted her napkin in silence, eyes low, suddenly fragile. The 3 men, still slumped on the floor, had security hovering over them now, uncertain, hesitant. The restaurant manager, pale, lips pressed, finally stepped forward. He cleared his throat. "I'm so sorry for the disturbance," he said to Olivia, hands wringing like he didn't know where to put them. "Your meal is on the house." Olivia looked up, calm, clear. "No need." She slid a few folded bills onto the table, more than enough to cover everything. The manager blinked, caught off guard by her composure, her control. "I'll notify the owner," he stammered, but Olivia didn't wait. She closed her book, tucked it under her arm, and stood. Her motion fluid, purposeful, finished. At the bar, a man loosened his tie and murmured, "She's got to be someone's daughter." "No way she's the real thing." His friend, with a goatee and narrowed eyes, scoffed. "Tattoo's probably fake. Got it on vacation." But then Olivia turned. Just her gaze, sharp and unwavering, met theirs. The laughter stopped cold. She said nothing. She didn't have to. Back at the table, the room had shifted. The whispers were softer now. The certainty was gone. A woman nearby, glasses fogged from her coffee steam, leaned toward her husband. "Did he really say Commander?" she asked. He nodded slowly, eyes still on Olivia. The man in black was already gone, disappeared as quietly as he'd arrived. But the weight of his words still lingered in the air. Security finally hoisted the 3 men up, bruised, limp, and humiliated. The tall one opened his mouth, maybe to apologize. But Olivia never looked his way. She was already eating again. Fork steady, calm. A nervous young waiter appeared beside her, hands shaking as he placed a fresh glass of water. "Ma'am." "Commander," he stammered. "Is there anything else you need?" She looked up, her gaze softer now. "Just the check," she replied, like she'd simply finished dinner. The energy had changed. No more chuckles. No more sideways glances. Now only questions. Curiosity, respect, and then the door opened again. This time silence came instantly. A man walked in, broad-shouldered, quiet. His suit was simple, but perfectly tailored. He didn't pause, didn't look around. He walked straight to Olivia's table like he belonged there. The businessman at the window dropped his fork. The woman in red turned away, cheeks pink with embarrassment. Even the cuffed men, being escorted out, froze mid-step. He didn't need a name. Everyone felt it. His presence was enough. He leaned in close, said something too low for the rest to hear. Olivia nodded. A faint smile brushed her lips. She closed her book. Together they stood, unrushed, unbothered, and headed toward the door. A woman in her 40s, hair pulled into a tired bun and purse spilling with papers, watched Olivia walk past. She'd said nothing all evening, just sat with red eyes, quietly nursing a cup of tea. Their eyes met, brief but heavy. The woman gave a slow nod, almost invisible, like two warriors recognizing each other without a word, and Olivia returned it, softly, solemnly, before stepping into the night. The consequences came quickly. Gold Chain, it turned out, was a mid-level tech executive. By morning, his LinkedIn had vanished, his company page scrubbed clean. Buzzcut, a flashy real estate agent, lost his top client, a developer who didn't want the PR mess. The tall one tried damage control, posting a teary apology video, but it backfired. The comments tore him apart, and his gym sponsor dropped him without warning. No headlines, no drama, just quiet justice. Olivia wasn't around to see it. She and her husband had driven off, city lights casting reflections across the windshield. No words needed. He placed his hand gently on hers. She squeezed back. They pulled into a roadside diner. Sticky tables, buzzing jukebox, burnt coffee scent in the air. She ordered a burger. He got pancakes. They ate in silence, the kind that says everything. Years ago, on a desert base, Olivia had once been the only woman in her unit. One night under stars sharp as glass, a boy from Texas handed her water and said, "You're tougher than all of us." She didn't respond then either, just kept going. That was always the point. Keep going. Keep steady. In the restaurant, whispers lingered. The businessman at events now thought twice before speaking. The red dress woman deleted her post. The veterans, they told the story over quiet beers. But Olivia didn't need applause. She'd earned her peace and walked through the world, unshaken,